The debate is over. At some point, the debate has to be...
You're the one should have some humility. Say, wait a minute, there are a lot of people who disagree.
Should we still debate whether the Earth is flat?
Yeah.
Whether the Earth is flat?
Yeah.
Flat?
Yeah.
I understand that this is just the tip of the iceberg, but scientific measurements of the Earth, June 1948. It was originally in the Russian language. This is the translated thing. Date distributed, July 1949, number of pages 19. That was classified. They stated here that where it is not determinable at all of the points of space without the knowledge of the shape of the Earth, but since the shape of the Earth is not known. Now let me remind you that we are always told, oh, we've known the shape of the Earth since 300 BC. How did Russian scientists, and let me just say that Russian scientists are not stupid people. But it gets better. He says that to study the near-sun halo and also the sun on the surface perpendicular to these rays. The dissertation contains a certain formula of the brightness of the sky, taking into consideration only the brightness of the first order, derived on the assumption of a flat Earth and giving some conclusions. Because remember, they're trying to study how light is operating within the atmosphere with a near sun halo, and they tell you over flat Earth. This is a Russian document, 1957.
This is NASA reference publication 1207 from 1988. The title is Derivation and Definition of a Linear Aircraft Model. I just want to show you guys what NASA is actually writing in their documents regarding the flat Earth. So we have the introduction saying, this report documents the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Repeat, flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. So my question is, you're NASA, right? So you know, and everybody knows that the Earth is a globe, and we see the pictures from space and everything is super fine, and that's the truth. Why do you say that you need to do studies and calculations and formulas and maths for something which is flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth? If a flat, non-rotating Earth is something delusional and it's stupid, then what's the purpose of doing something for something that does not exist? Do you see the point? Let's step up a bit more with this challenge, and let's see the conclusion of this report at the very end. This report derives and defines a set of linearized system matrices for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. You see the point? It's impressive, it's amazing. Ames Research Center, Edwards, California, January 8, 1987. They actually state that the whole report, the whole purpose of the report is for this flying object in a stationary atmosphere. Stationary means it doesn't move over a flat, non-rotating Earth, a flat Earth which does not rotate. Why? Because we have the calculations of how to calculate the curvature of the Earth, which is very easy. It's like one of the most elemental math formulas ever. So because we have this and it's very easy, what's the point of making further calculations on a flat, non-rotating Earth? It doesn't make any sense. It does make sense if everything that we've been told is a lie, and actually the globe Earth is a lie, and the flat Earth is the actual truth itself. And the definition of definition, because many people would say, well, the report is only stating this because of blah blah blah. This is a definition of the word definition in the dictionary. A statement of the exact meaning of a word, especially in a dictionary. So the definition of the whole thing that we're speaking about is everything about a flat, non-rotating Earth. And the calculations are made considering that assumption.
In this scene, Chris Hadfield bends down in order to adjust something, and you can see on the back of his shirt a couple of upticks on either side where you would expect wires to come in on either side of that harness in order to support it. Of course, they've computer graphicked out the supporting wires. You can't actually see them, but what you can see is a very slight discoloration where it's slightly lighter and then it goes slightly darker. And that's strange. That shows a couple of things.
Think just like at home, you have your lights on the ceiling, so that is up. But then you can do this like Randy's doing right now. It looks like for him, that he's standing up. So there's really no sense of direction other than maybe the writing on the walls and the lights that we have. Really neat. When you're working, you can get in all different kinds of spots and it all seems to work fine. So it's a great place to live and work. When you're working, you can get in all different kinds of spots and it all seems to work fine.
Seems to work fine. Seems to work fine.
I definitely haven't mastered it. I'll give you a trial and I'll show you just how bad it is. Practice makes perfect. Give me another week.
And straight from the college campus, Dale Gardner. That is just a quick scenes of life in orbit. Our first task, of course, was to deploy Telesat. It was a nighttime deploy, and so this is a TV picture, nighttime TV picture of the deploy. It looks more or less like in the day. You just can't see it too well. Went smoothly, and really not much else to say about that. We had another deploy.
Here is a smaller portion of the clip, and you can unquestionably see the wire attached to the supposed satellite that is being deployed in space. Sorry, NASA fanboys. If NASA faked any of it, then all of NASA's work is suspect.
Big win for truth. Magistrate Court of Barrow County, state of Georgia, has given the victory to what is demonstratable and provable. This all started when Zen Garcia offered a challenge to anybody who could prove that the Earth had a curvature rate at its given diameter, or they could prove that Earth had some type of movement that was over 50 miles an hour. In the court of law, neither one could be proved. Which is very interesting because the judge had to decide this case based on the information provided by the litigants. And so we have to ask ourselves the question, since Flat Earth won, did the person backing the spinning ball Earth theory provide enough information for the judge to convince her to take their side? And the answer is no. And the answer is no.
I mean, I would have thought on that basis alone, the case should have just been thrown out. It's like your requirement was real world, not computer simulation. So
William, the guy that had sued me, and he was upset, so irate. She said that he turned blood red when the ruling went down against him, and the bailiff and the judge could see that, and they actually held us back to allow him to go forward, and waited till he was seen in the parking lot before they, released us to go out. He was so upset.
The answer is no, 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 no.
Now let me remind you, we are always told, oh, we've known the shape of the earth since 300 BC.
But how could it be, Eratosthenes asked. The only answer was that the surface of the earth is curved.
Well, there are two possible explanations.
The only answer.
Two possible explanations.
The only answer.
Two possible explanations. First, we could have a flat Earth with a sun that's small and close by, so that the light hits the second well at an angle.
The only answer was that the surface of the earth is curved.
Both explanations to fit our observations.
And it is the Greek word platos, that this word has a root word. Right? So, what is the root word? The root word is platus. And what does platus mean? This is straight from the Strong's Greek Dictionary, by the way. Spread out flat. So what he's saying is they went up on the spread out flat earth. These people out here, these pastors, these Christians say, flat earth's not in the Bible, really? Sometimes you got to look up a word because we lose a lot in English. And also the word gay or gi, or however you pronounce it, for the earth in Greek here means the whole thing. Not just a spot, but it means the whole earth. All right, and that's exactly how the Septuagint translates it as well. The whole thing.
Of this drop. I mean, that is massive, and if you're going to tell me that you wouldn't be able to notice that from back here, I would say you're crazy.
Remember, if the lake is flat, it would be the same height as before.
Now look at this view. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. We can actually see the laser coming from the shore, so why isn't she behind some sort of wall of water? This is only at 3 miles, and look where the laser's going. Now it's shooting off into space. It means the lake curved that much. So another ridiculous lie.
I don't even think this beam is going to hit our boat.
Here's how we know that they are frauding the whole system. Because all they did was make their results match what they thought they should be. They used the curvature calculator, which for 3 miles equals 6 feet. However, they forgot to put in the eye height of the observer. They would have done that and put in the 2 feet high laser pointer and then put a target distance of 3 miles. Well, sorry. The target hidden height should have only been 1 foot, not 6. That's called science fraud, my friends. And you're ruining the minds of other people. Let's listen to John Cena, whose mind is being ruined.
To see a 6-foot drop when everything looked flat to me was kind of mind-boggling. To wrap your head around it in that short a time was a little difficult for me. I was like, this is crazy. I still have a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that we measured the Earth at that lake.
Perception is still it's a flat lake, but
the lake looks completely flat from up here.
Definitely kind of shattered my perspective in about 1 second. It made me rethink what was going on. To see a 6-foot drop when everything looked flat to me was kind of mind-boggling.
And they're buying it.
If the lake is flat, the laser beam and the water will always be parallel to each other. Seen from a boat, the beam would always stay at the same height above the water, no matter how far you travel into the lake. But does that happen?
I want to hear a valid reason why this experiment that we're watching right here, and it's on our channel, anybody can go and look at it and read the comments. It's called the 7.5 mile flat earth laser test on a frozen lake. It was obviously very cold, likely below zero. And like I said, the things you have to consider here is that density altitude was likely identical on each side of the lake. The fact that it was below freezing tells you that the moisture component has been frozen out of the air, crystallized and dropped to the ground point blank. And the fact that he was able to track with that laser beam all the way across the lake, all 8 miles or 7.5 miles across the lake, tells you that, refraction must be absolutely miracle working, for it to be able to do that, except the fact that refraction couldn't be happening because you have identical density altitude on each side of the lake.
It's a trick, people. It's so easy. This is a very easy thing to spot. This is just perspective. I can change that the way that I want to, There's nothing scientific about this. This is just perspective. And if you are using those water level tests as proof, you are really, in a bad situation. Let's say that.
I'm assuming this is one of Wolfie's. And you can just eyeball this and tell that this water is much higher than the camera's eye level. And so it means the camera is lower. The camera's the center of the field of view for the camera is already lower than this level of water. I mean, this is just ridiculous. I mean, really. And then, of course, the horizon appears to be lower. But let's just have a look at where the actual eye level is. I mean, this is comical, but it's very frustrating when these people don't do science. Take that one away. There you go. All right. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Look.
Where the horizon would appear, you would think, oh, well, this is where the horizon is down here. But in reality, the horizon is here. And in this case, it's cutting that moon off on a precise, very straight line. So if you're flying, you have to fly towards that point to maintain your level of flight. That's how it works. That's why it appears to be so flat and square, flat, level, straight. There's your flat plane right there.
Says
That is due to the curvature of the Earth.
Capsule, and then going in the capsule, all of this earlier today.
To a camera that is swinging wildly.
Does drop.
Going in the capsule, all of this earlier today.
To a camera that is swinging wildly.
Does drop.
Going in the capsule, all of this earlier today.
Swinging wildly.
This is more or less what he should actually see. He should actually not see it like it was in the real world. If he was above a globe, he should actually see it like this. Yeah, so the outline of that body should be down here.
Does drop.
No, Jeffrey, the right-hand side is not the flat Earth.
Now you're going to claim, oh, but you see, even if we tilt the perspective up and down, the horizon should be flat. But that's not the case, since he's using a ultra-wide-angle lens. There's no perfect lens in the world. There's no such thing. I'm a professional photographer. I have several lenses. I have ultra-wide, I have zoom lenses, I have fisheye, prime lenses. All of them have barrel distortion. That's a characteristic of every lens. And I'm going to render again. This is eye level, even with the camera distortion. Once the horizon is at the center, means we are no longer living on a planet. Okay, there's more land. You can clearly see. It should be also visible, this horizon drop at 10 kilometers altitude, 880 feet. You see here? It should be way below my level already. So if we go back to 30, again, this is with lens distortion, okay? This is simulating is exactly what Wayne Callum is showing on this video right here. 90,000 feet and flat.
To a camera that is swinging wildly.
Don't really understand how.
There's your flat plane right there.
Don't really understand how. As the flight manual says.
Behold the flat Earth, folks.
Pilot's trick. And as the flight manual says,
Pilot's trick requires the use of a computer. Well, that first of all should raise a lot of red flags to anybody that was a pilot before 25 years ago.
And as the flight manual says,
and it didn't. The plane didn't drift for 6 hours on a 777.
and as the flight manual says,
Pilot's trick. On his latest balloon launch, we're going to see that the horizon stays at high level.
In the capsule, all of this earlier today.
To a camera that is swinging wildly.
So it seems some flat earthers don't really understand how.
Right. The Great Canal of China, said to be 700 miles in length, was made without regard to any allowance for supposed curvature, as the Chinese believe the Earth to be a stationary plane. I may also add that no allowance was made for it in the North Sea Canal or in the Manchester Ship Canal, both recently constructed, thus clearly proving that there is no globularity in Earth or sea, so that the world cannot possibly be a planet.
Look, I'm sorry if that offends you or hurts your feelings, but look, get over it.
There's almost no dust or solid particles in the Antarctic air, and the prevailing winds blowing off the continent have small moisture content. Consequently, the visibility is usually very good and often exceptional, a fact which, if not appreciated, may lead the observer into serious error when judging distances. An object which may be thought to be but 5 miles distant could well be 30 miles away, and mountains have been sighted at 300 miles. Let's read that last sentence again. An object which may be thought to be but 5 miles distant could well be 30 miles away, and mountains have been sighted at 300 miles. Let me just say right here, for the record, that if anybody can see mountains 300 miles away, then the globe Earth is done, which we've said so many times. But you'll allow excuses If you do allow those excuses, then expect them, because that's how they've gotten away with this for 60 years.
Do you take into consideration the curvature of the Earth?
Absolutely.
So it's the COG map, I guess, that just automatically puts it in there for you?
That's the Dallas-Fort Worth area maps, yes.
Yeah, okay, so they automatically put...
So we're talking about a hypersonic railgun, and the thing about this is the reason that this guy is saying that it proves flat Earth is because it really does. It doesn't have much of an arc to drop down, and as soon as it goes over just a few miles of the Earth, then it would have curvature to contend with to be able to accurately hit its target. Well, if it can shoot up to 100 miles, well, we all know that the curvature in 100 miles is 6,666 feet, which is well over a mile and a quarter, mile and a third, something like that. And it would seem to me that the curvature of the Earth would make this fairly useless, especially for anything that would be any closer than 100 miles or anything like that before it would actually start arcing off. But until then, the drop is almost non-existent. So that leaves a whole lot of area in between the railgun and its target, where there would be alleged Earth curvature. Well, because of the fact that they can pinpoint targets, right down to a gnat's butt, that tells us that they're not having to deal with any curvature, because they would have to, commensurately make the gun somehow magically arc around the Earth. And these are not smart projectiles; they're dumb projectiles. They're definitely aerodynamic, but they do not have any other type of guidance system in them other than the brute force of the magnets firing across. So I would have to agree with this guy in his assertion that, if the Earth was truly curved, that it would make this, completely impossible to work. But like I said, the biggest thing is the speed. The speed is almost completely unbelievable. It's so fast.
Yeah, the curvature doesn't really come into play. We're doing everything plane geometry.
Plane geometry?
Yeah, we're doing everything flat surface.
Okay.
We base everything off of a level surface, even though there is curvature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm just getting different conflicting answers.
And from this height, 67,500 feet,
Flat.
the edge of our planet has a definitive curve to it. It is,
Did you catch that? If you don't admit this is a fisheye lens, then I got nothing else to say.
1,000 feet.
Here it comes. Look at that thing.
At this point,
let's watch that again.
1,000 feet. 1,000 feet.
This is called lens distortion, people. And then we cut back to Adam.
At this point, aside from the 6 astronauts on the space station, we are the 2 highest.
And there we are again. Looks like he's banked here.
Humans off of planet Earth.
There it goes again. Curvature.
Height of the
because of the
standard.
lens distortion, and we're back. Plane is level again. And where's the curve, Adam? Where's the curve?
Debate whether the Earth is flat. Flat.
Understand that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
There's your flat plane right there.
Flat.
Right there.